How's it, guys? Hope you're doing well tonight. This
Too
is our
shabby.
7th episode. We are joined today with a very special guest, Patrick, also very much part of the Mind Assault project, but a lot of you guys would know him as one of the faces of Metal4Africa, which kind of works out quite lovely because they have an awesome online stream coming up this following Saturday. Obviously, I'm joined also, as usual, with my awesome, eloquent, and jack of many trades, Alec. How's it going?
Good.
Right. Well, I guess enough of this silly banter. We can get into the meat and potatoes of the situation. As I said, we have a awesome Winter Fest coming up online this weekend. I guess the first question for you, for you actually delving into this, the motivation behind the whole Winterfest going online this year. What was your guys' decision to go do this via Discord and the motivation of doing this?
Did we have a choice?
I guess that's a question. You guys are a staple. That's kind of the thing. This, you guys have been doing this almost longer than any other organizer festival in the country. So you got your roots. I'm sure you felt the pressure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of going with the route of Discord, can you kind of, I mean, I know the question has come up a bit, but I mean, the whole justification behind why
Yeah. No, it's a question I like to be asked. Because believe it or not, like 2 or maybe, all right, like the timeline becomes a bit murky, but let's say 3 months ago, I'd never heard of Discord. I didn't know what it was. But like 3 months ago, we also weren't sure yet whether we would be forced to cancel Winterfest. But, you know, if we look at where we were in March with the lockdown starting and the first 3 weeks of hard lockdown, I don't think any of us really appreciated back then how long this would be drawn out. And I think now what has become very clear is we still have no idea how long it's going to be drawn out, but it's going to be drawn out longer than anyone expected, that's for sure. So when it became apparent, you know, when we went from hard lockdown to softer lockdown or level 4, whatever they wanted to call it, that's when we started realizing, yo, guys, there's probably a good chance we're not going to be doing a show in August. So the first impulse was, well, what if we postponed? But we also realized that if we postpone 1 month, maybe, which was the longest we'd be willing to do, we would start messing with Summerfest, you know, because it's every 6 months we roll these shows over. And that's when we had to ask, like, are we going to have to go online with this thing? And I mean, that's obviously a scary thing because we've never done it before. You know, we don't really have those skill sets or expertise or experience or any of that kind of stuff. But I think, you know, the question of why is because one thing I learned or felt very hard in that first 3 weeks of lockdown was that our subculture felt like it had been overnight made redundant. You know, we were suddenly forced to rely very much on our much closer communities of, you know, basically family and neighbors, like those two things primarily. And I think as metalheads or alternative like subculture people, like those are two things which, yeah, it's not to say we have bad relationships with them, but we have a tendency to lean heavily on our own kind, if that makes sense. And I believe that's been one of the keys to the success of our Metal4Africa Summerfest and Winterfest over all these years, is that we really try and create that sense of community. So it's like, well, we have to do online. You know, if we're not doing a physical event, pulling the plug is not going to sit on our hands. So that kind of leads into why the choice for Discord. Because Discord is a social application, is the simple answer. You know, a lot of people said, oh, you guys are going to really struggle. Why don't you just do a Twitch feed or a YouTube live or something like that? Some people said, even just use Facebook. It's popular and everyone's there. But, you know, I don't think those platforms would be especially social. You know, when people come to a Summerfest or Winterfest, they get to see a lot of people who they don't see often enough, whose company they appreciate. And Discord seems to be the tool that's going to allow us to, how do I say, achieve closer to that than the alternatives.
No, it's true. I mean, there definitely is a feeling of solidarity, and I mean, obviously, the lockdown has added to a little bit of that separation anxiety that I'm sure a lot of the performing artists and a lot of the fans are actually missing. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, I guess it kind of segues to the I guess kind of let's paint a picture on the day. It's August 1st, it's 4 p.m. Everybody's logging on via their iPads or their phones.
Uh-huh.
They've created a password and a profile now via Discord. 4 p.m. they log in and they go on to the, I presume the link to the event that'll be happening. What can
Uh-huh.
viewers and listeners expect when they log in?
Right. Well, we're actually hoping to, we have to make that link available as from tomorrow, being Monday. Um, and we want people to start familiarizing with the space already. Be, be serviced in the sense that people can go in and start just checking it out. You know, if other people are checking out while they're there, maybe they even strike up a conversation now. But that's the nature of it. You know, like it's like think of it as a venue. You know, we legacy, and we've developed that event to best utilize the space within the venue where we've hosted it. So instead of just having a shows have been more than that. It's been a live concert. It's had an area where there's DJs. It's had areas where people can just like sit, you know, with various stalls, you know, selling their wares and services, so on and so forth. So, you know, even though our shows only run for a few hours, we do call them festive in nature. Just a in our Discord server, we're trying to create a similar atmosphere or a similar. So when you log on, you'll find that side various little rooms or yeah, like chat spaces. I mean, in Discord language, we call them channels. But we realize a lot of people are going to be joining here who are not regular Discord users. So we're going to refer to them as chat rooms. um, and we'll be using text and video. So, you know, because we appreciate that some people might not be on, you know, uh, connections with all the world, just cell phones through their mobile network on a, you know, limited amount. So using text channels as well, but primarily we're going to have a live stream event, start time and a time, 6 hours. You know, but our normal events run for 8 hours, so we're kind of compressing it down. There are 10 bands and through those bands also has us doing a little bit of commentary between talking people through what's happening. But because if there's multiple rooms, multiple chat spaces, we want to be able to between the bands just keep people up to date on what's happening where, so that they don't necessarily miss out on anything. But the idea is that people must just mingle. People must, like, I mean, at a normal live event, we use our feet to get from place to place and to explore a little bit. And while we're doing that, we run into familiar faces and we break into conversation, few laughs, few jokes, smiles. That's what we're trying to create, just in a digital venue.
Sure, it'll work great. I'm looking forward to it. I think people forget also the functionality of something like Discord to be able to host multiple channels,
Yeah.
multiple chats. I mean, especially the fact that you guys have a lot of other different musicians. You got Chris Xenopoulos of
Oh yeah.
Virginia. He'll be doing a bit of a guitar thing that he usually does, but with a live, with the whole live input of the online feed. So it'll be interesting. It's going to be quite fun. I'm looking really
Yeah.
forward to it.
Yeah, it's been quite a interesting approach now, but because doing the show digitally or whatever you want to call it online, um, it's kind of breaks all the rules. Um, all the stuff that we've applied when booking a lineup for a show, like none of that really stands anymore. Like, it's a brave new world now. So we thought, we've often acknowledged that there are some superb solo musicians within our community, but in the conventional live event, like to be honest, we haven't felt the confidence of how it would go down to have a solo artist feature on, like, dare I say, such a prestigious stage and stuff. Like sometimes you don't know how other members of the community would say, yeah, but we're a band and that's a solo, and you never know how it's going to pan out. But with this platform, it's like solo will actually thrive in this environment, I think. Because you have very driven individuals, so driven that they, piloting their own career forward, and to
Doing
see what
everything.
yeah. So it's quite a keen thing to see what are they going to pull out for this. How is the quality of what they're going to bring forward going to compare with what a full-on band brings forward?
Oh, well, I guess we will find out in just under 7 days.
Yep. I'm hoping that this time next week I'm sitting having a lekker, like chill out, like whiskey. Like the beers are finished, but I still have a little bit of whiskey left. So I must save one for like the Sunday after Winterfest. And yeah, it's been quite a journey, and there's still a week remaining.
Sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, that actually segues quite nicely into what I wanted to ask. You mentioned that it's really cool that we have now an opportunity for solo acts to be able to shine. An interesting thing that came to my mind was like, how were this year's bands chosen and solo acts?
Yeah.
And like, we're looking at this possibly being a thing for Summerfest. So what can bands do to prepare to get in that sort of digital space? And just to follow up with that, the bands that have already been chosen for Winterfest and possibly Summerfest, what is sort of the restrictions that are going to be imposed on them when it comes to when M4A fests become live again,
Yeah. Well, sure. I mean, that's a loaded question. There's so many avenues I might go with this one. So when I stop speaking, if you feel I haven't actually answered it, please just tell me where. But I think first thing needs to be clear. It's like, we've never done this before, or we've never done it this way. And I'm not saying just from the Metal4Africa point of view. I'm talking about most of the bands as well. So, it's brave new world for all of us. And I think in terms of choosing the lineup that we have now, it was both difficult and easy. Difficult in the sense that how we've been dealing with lineup selections for many years now is we have a committee. And that committee, we come together, and it's usually 6 people. And among those 6 people, we have a quorum. It's very official and formal and by the books. And the point of that is that we can have a very balanced and, let's call it, sustainable approach to how we work with the community of artists who are close to our heart. For this show, there was none of that. There was no committee. Because pretty much all of the principles which would have applied were instantly redundant. So it kind of went I don't want to say this being a dictatorship. You know, it's like I had to use my imagination and my judgment to say, who do we think, number one, would have the capacity to do the kinds of things that we're thinking of doing? Who's going to have the creativity to kind of think out of the box with us? And then the other thing was, how are we going to make this event more accessible audience now that we have that capability? Because always do a show in Cape Town, you know, like Summerfest, Winterfest has generally become a very Cape Town thing. Enjoyed us, and we've always had bands from the country at each show, but we haven't necessarily had an audience from every part of the country. So we thought, let's start there. And when I say a dictatorship, no, I'm not really a dictator. I do still ask people's opinions, but on this one, I had to just basically jump in and contact people and think on my feet. And in terms of the feedback I'm getting from the people I'm speaking to at that time, just say, all right, we're going to go with this. You know, yeah, like a committee, we wouldn't have been able to pull this off using the. So yeah, I prattled on the path. What have I not answered?
Well,
I guess
well,
more along the lines of like, is there anything bands can do to get in their site
Yes.
for Summerfest?
Yes.
And so, like,
okay,
the whole what happens when things go live again, like to the
Yeah.
bands that have performed, you know?
Yeah. All right. I think as far as Summerfest is concerned, I'm feeling pretty certain at the moment that what we're doing now for Winterfest is just preparation for another online festival, which will probably be done better than what we're going to do now, because we're going to learn so much from now. And I mean, the whole journey of our live events over the from each one, you know, like we never get this feeling of live. Now we can just chill. We're always learning and we're always trying to keep it fresh, keep ourselves fresh. So in the online realm, like we have to adopt that same attitude. So when it comes to band selections, I think having done one event now, Fest, difficult to know how to approach the future and lineup selections. Like I want to get back to a committee format as soon as possible because I believe in that format. And you know, we've been using it for a long time and it works for what we do, or we believe it works for what we do. But right now I can't really say anything. Not big, but not because I'm withholding the information, but we have so much to learn. And I do believe that with the format we're looking at now, it does leave room for greater creativity in terms of what kind of act can we book for a show. You know, when we were doing the physical events, you know, we had a very set idea, and saying with the solo artists was a bit of a question of us being afraid. Like, what if we make the wrong decision? Disappointed. But now it's like, well, you can't be disappointed more than you are. You know, with the fact that we all pushed in as an enterprise, if I can use just all forward. um, and I think in terms of going back to live shows, we obviously want to do that as soon as possible. So maybe Winterfest 21. I think when we that will be happening, we will probably just revisit our committee format. Only make the kind of decisions you're asking, you know, in terms of how can, you know, because I think it's actually an important question, one which we haven't thought up properly yet. But I think the way bands interact with their audiences and how they develop content, how they think about developing content, how you think about being a band, period, is all going to change in the next 6 months to a year. I think you're going to find a lot of bands actually falling by the wayside because of the loss of momentum of live gigs. And you're going to find bands just pop up out of nowhere because they're equipped with the tools of this kind of era and this online era. And it's going to be very interesting to see who those are on either side and sort of sits in the like middle ground and just adapts or evolves. And on that, like I noticed, like, I mean, in the bands trying to come up with this lineup, not everyone was keen, hey? Who are not going to be taking part on Sunday because they just didn't feel up for it. You know, for a variety of reasons, which to each band, it's their own reasons, and the members in those bands all have their own misgivings about. Let's put it that way, because we made no promises to anyone when we said we're going to do this thing online. Some of the bands were like, "Oh, how, what?" And we said, "We don't know yet, but work with us and we'll figure something out."
Well, I guess with that in mind, I mean, I'm just looking over the lineup that you've got of the bands, and you've got a nice wide variety. It's always been kind of the ethos when it comes to Metal4Africa for the winter and summer festival. A lot of micro is covered. Yeah. I see Deadline, I see Oh God, Raksha, see Rough Magic, The Fallen Prophets, my homies, and I even see in Fate. So, excluding, I believe they've got something also epic planned. And again, you know, that's just representing a little bit of East London. So again, you guys kind of brought in a little bit of everywhere. So I guess that kind of brings me to the next kind of question. As somebody that's kind of heard it all, seen it all over the years, and you know, you into the, I mean, what are your thoughts on the SA metal scene as being produced and coming out there now across all boards?
Oh, hell, man. I mean, if I think about how long I've been involved in the things I've seen come and go with time, I mean, and then I have to think about what is my personal, like, what is my pet subgenre or my little grouping of pet subgenres, and where we are now. I think we're in a very privileged in terms of tea available and the quality of that variety available. I mean, I've gone through what in my mind and my heart still resonates as the like death metal glory days of like, what do you call it, zeros, you know, like 2007 to 2010-ish. Like, to me, that just seemed like a glorious era for death metal, you know, and I was in my element. But what I found during were good bands and there were mediocre bands, and then there were actually, you know, it shouldn't be me saying this, Mr. Diplomacy and all, but there were some bands that were actually terrible. But you know, it didn't matter at that time, but because I don't think we had such a strong sense for others. Whereas now there's such a great variety of high quality bands to sort of represent the diversity which Metal4Africa has always wished to represent. So I kind of feel we're in a race. Asking, how are you going to top this lineup of this particular show? You know, and like sometimes with the committee, someone has said like, maybe it's like kind of hold them in the back pocket for the next event kind of vibe. And I'm like, no. If they seem the right fit for now to make an epic lineup, we must do it now and worry about the next event then. And that's worked well for us. But it just seems that each time round, enough to choose from. And in that respect, I feel we're in a very good space. Happy. I don't know if that answers what you were asking.
It's. I definitely think that on a production level, SA is notched up. I feel like, you know, obviously back in the 90s when you fixes and potholes and seeds and all those likeness, it had to be very analog, and the production had to be very makeshift. You know, now even any do-it-yourself band now can kind of pull off a recording, and if they've got a little bit of technical engineering knowledge, they can actually produce it to a level that you would actually think it's at an international level. So I guess that kind of brings us to the next question. Not to broad, obviously pre-lockdown, we were but really killer live set from you guys at Summit. You guys put out that, I believe it was called Corroded World.
Yes.
And yeah, you guys were just getting a little bit of traction, obviously delving a little bit more into the mellow death thrash vibes now. In the near future, we can expect that Cult of Conflict.
Man, that album was supposed to be out now already. But you know, with lockdown starting and the whole COVID situation, I think this is the first time in the history of Mind Assault where I am the weakest link. And I'm serious. It's like the band is waiting for me. But because of Winterfest and all the learning I've had to do, and just the mental preoccupation, it's like we're like, sorry guys, like I can't be available now to do the finishing work. And I think in terms of the sort of rollout plan we had wanted to follow, that was all a mess anyways. So it's like kind of back to the drawing boards. And I do believe that we'll be forgiven by those who've been eager, but rather we do it in a way that we feel was done to the best of our abilities than to just push it out for the sake of pushing it out. But we're so close to ready. It like it almost hurts to talk about it. But
well, I mean,
I think,
what do you think listeners can expect from the album? Because this is obviously, it's been a long build up to this. A lot of trinkets, a lot of little treats along the way building up to this. So what do you think listeners can expect from the final product?
Well, I think, something we've had to come to terms with is the stage of life we're in makes doing band difficult. Guys have businesses, guys have kids. There's a lot of financial responsibility, which in our younger years we simply didn't have. So, but we still have this burning desire to make metal. So I think for us, the journey is far from over. It's just happening at a massively decelerated pace. And I think with the creation of this album, our mindset has been finally more towards a studio endeavor, where for the longest time we only really cared about what we could deliver live on stage. So realizing that the life of the stage is kind of settling down for us, we were willing to give ourselves a bit more time in the studio and a bit more time for certain individuals in the band who have a lot to offer in that area, which before was maybe even a bit overlooked, but because of the momentum of the live and the gees and the thrill. So with the overall product of the Cult of Conflict, we want to try and touch on what we can call Mind Assault's past, Mind Assault's present, and hopefully Mind Assault's future. So that leaves it quite open-ended. But you're going to have songs on that album which are just like balls to the wall, choppy guitars, sort of from our roots, which are more sort of thrash and death. But most of the material is going to be much, how do we say, larger, more like epic, lots of orchestral elements, kind of like you've had a taste of with Corroded World. Corroded World is quite a standalone track, I think, in the sense of it's the most simple song. Like, I think in terms of structure, how it was composed. And that really for us was a very new thing to try. Whereas a lot of the other songs, you know, we try very hard to make it like a few boxes we try and tick is we want it to be epic, we want it to be head bangable, and you know, like something that when you watch it live, it just translates into movement and action. That's always been our formula. And you know, lots of flashy stuff. I mean, Corroded World doesn't even have like it doesn't even have a solo. You know, that's a bit uncommon for us. So yeah, you know, past, present, and future.
Exciting. Maybe 2021. You know, where I'm writing off this year as far as it goes. You know, we're just putting music out and you're hosting events online. We're just trying to give people a bit of entertainment to take their mind off the chaos of real life. But
I think Mind Assault will release this year still.
That's
just
awesome.
need to get over the Winterfest hurdle.
That's awesome. I think what we need to do now is just have some closing thoughts before we run out of time. So, Patrick, anything you'd like to speak about, be it Winterfest, Mind Assault, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I think, I mean, Winterfest is at the moment all consuming. Like my whole house is like transformed at the moment into a very foreign looking place, but it's necessary. So it's like, yeah, this obviously is consuming a lot of my mind. So I think the only thing I really want to use my freedom of the floor for is to say, like, please pull in, join us, check it out. For those who are unfamiliar with Discord, yeah, take a couple of minutes to get in there and like try and figure out how it works. Don't be afraid to come in on Sunday. The way we've structured the show is that if you're not a comfortable Discord user, you don't have to actually get all social and stuff. The very top channel or chat room, as we call it, will be just the live stream. Come and watch that. And as you start to feel braver, maybe explore lower down in the menu. But I think the thing is like, talk to people. Don't be shy. Like come in there, come into this space that we're creating and like hang out. You know, like we as a metal community, we want to be together. We want to hang out together. And Metal4Africa's mantra has always been, it's like a place for friendship and metal. So if that sounds good to you, come and spend come and spend Saturday with us. And yeah, and something we also really want, sorry, this is a little bit of an aside. One of the channels or one of the chat rooms is like photographs. Like come and post a picture of like what you're doing on the day. You know, like what are you wearing? Are you wearing your pajamas? Or are you wearing like, are you dressed to the metal nines? You know, like just come and have fun basically. Because I think in this strange time we're living in and all the crap going on, we need laughs, we need companionship, we need something familiar. And we're hoping to give you a taste of that.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it. I know Alex looking forward to it. For anybody that's curious on the whole process of Discord, I'll include a whole bunch of links to the YouTube tutorials that Patrick and them have laid out on the Metal4Africa YouTube channel. And yeah, we look forward to catching up with you and seeing all the familiar faces next week, Saturday. August 1st, Discord. Check out all the online links, Instagram. They're pushing it out daily, new content. And yeah, we will see you guys next week. Also, side note, Alec will unfortunately not be here next week. So we will be giving next Sunday's show a miss and taking a 2-week break to recover from the whole Winterfest ourselves. But we'll be back. August 9th with a fresh guest who Alec is going to keep hidden for 2 weeks from me. So we'll wait and see. But again, thanks so much, Patrick, for joining us. And thanks, everybody, for joining us also. We hope to see you guys next week at Winterfest online on Discord. Starts 4 p.m. Central Eastern Time, GMT +1 for any internationals. And yeah, I guess that's it. Let's wrap it up for this Sunday.
Cool.
Thanks very much,
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.